guys, it's your boy Luke here with a special video, kind of out of left field, but Draftkings gave us some LIV Golf Showdown contest for this weekend, and frankly, it's the stronger field out of the two tours this week, so why not go ahead, bring you guys some content for the single round slate so we can go out there and try to take home some fantasy contests. With the influx of talent into this tour, there's truly a lot of names to choose from at this point. And if you've taken a look at the pricing, it's not quite as strong as what we're used to seeing week to week, but a lot better than some of the European Tour stuff we've gone over the years from DraftKings, and certainly better than some of the Korn Ferry Tour stuff that we've seen as well. So excited to hop into it. We only have Showdown content as of right now because there aren't any 3-round contests, but I would expect DraftKings to add them there at some point. It's not going to be a huge hurdle for them to go and add those 3-round contests, but for now, going to live with the Showdown contest and bring you guys my thoughts here for Thursday's round. So without further ado, a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and hop right on in. Alrighty, so no fancy spreadsheet for this week. A lot of it was last second, and of course a lot of the stat keeping for the LIV Tour isn't really up to standard at this point, but for rounds 2 and 3, which I expect to do content for, we'll have a much larger knowledge base when it comes to the golf course, some of the stats for the first 2 rounds. So definitely will be a little bit more data-based over the last 2 rounds, but for round 1, everyone's dealing with the same deck of playing cards. No one really knows anything about this golf course because even though we know it's at Pumpkin Ridge, it's a composite course. The holes that they're actually playing as the 18 this week are coming from the 2 golf courses on property. And in fact, they haven't used a comp course setup here since a USGA setup back in the 1980s. So it's really an unknown for everybody. There's not stats we can really go from. And even though there have been a few Korn Ferry Tour events at Pumpkin Ridge, that has just been on the one singular golf course. They didn't really use the same type of setup there. So while you can perhaps get a little bit from those setups, the leaderboards that we've seen there over the years, not really anything that we can go on a concrete basis. What do we know though? I know that the LIV Tour probably wants to see scoring. We understand that they're an organization that prides themselves on entertainment. Of course, the 54-hole shotgun setup, all that is meant to kind of juice up the game, make it run a little bit quicker, and overall appeal to younger fans. And in general, I expect them to want to see a birdie fest. The PGA Tour sometimes likes to see birdie fest. Sometimes they'll ramp up the difficulty, give us a single-digit under par winner. I would expect this to be closer to like a 15 under par winner. Now, granted, there's only 3 rounds to deal with, and getting to 15 under par through 3 rounds would be quite a feat. So I think we're going to see an easier golf course here. And when it comes to showdown picks, we certainly want to be taking guys that are good with their birdie or better percentage. Aggressive players, they're going to go out there and put up a lot of scoring because, if we take a look at the scoring glossary here, it's exactly what you get for PGA Showdown, right? You get 16 points for a double eagle, which you're not going to see, right? But 11 points for an eagle, about 6 points for a birdie, and slightly negative points for a bogey and then a double bogey. A majority of your points are going to come from your birdie production. I mean, you'll get some of them from your pars, but you want your players to make 6 or 7 birdies on a round to get to that quote-unquote ceiling performance. You're really looking for 50-plus points from all 6 golfers on most showdown slates to go out there and take something down. You get huge bonuses for making 3 birdies in a row, just like you would for 4-round contests. That's a 5-point bonus. Bogey-free rounds, also hole-in-one, are other ways that you can really just add on to your score. So we're used to seeing this type of format when it comes to PGA Showdown, so not going to be a huge difference there. And there are plenty of contests up. So at first, it was just this $15 contest with right around 8,000 entries. But as the week has gone on, they have added some single entries, some smaller field GPPs, that sort of thing. So there are going to be quite a few options to deal with here, not just this large field GPP where it's 25K to first, but for this video specifically, we are going to focus on this contest. So we're going to talk about large field GPP plays, which is the majority of my focus here on the channel anyways, but more of a high upside approach. Above $10,000, I don't really love anybody, but I'll probably play some Dustin Johnson, also some Taylor Gooch. Both of them are among the best players on this tour when it comes to birdie or better percentage. In fact, number 1 and number 2 respectively. If you give a little bit of a larger sample size, then guys like Bryson DeChambeau start to creep in, and frankly, that's why I like him at this event too. Like I mentioned before, I expect it to play relatively easy. I expect the LIV Tour to want to see scoring out there, and as a result, I'm trying to take the most aggressive players. And like I mentioned with the scoring, it's almost entirely based on your birdie production. Even if you make bogeys, right, you're only going to lose 1.8 points. And for every birdie you make, you're going to get 5.7. That means that the net of a birdie plus a bogey is a solid, what is it, almost whole 3 points higher than, well, actually 1.5 points higher than just making 2 pars on those holes. So you want guys that are going to be volatile, even if they put a lot of bogeys on the card. Bryson DeChambeau checks that box emphatically. Same thing with Taylor Gooch and Dustin Johnson. So if you're going to pay for anybody above, let's say $9,800, those would be the 3 players that I have my eye on. Brooks Koepka, maybe worth a few looks. I think he'll be one of the lower owned options here up top. Abraham Answer, also probably somebody I'd consider as a fringe play. So not going to have access to them. You can't play everybody up top unless you're playing 150 lineups, just taking trivial or marginal edges in terms of leverage on players. But I'm looking at playing closer to 20 lineups per slate and going to just constrict my player pool. I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive than some other people out there because when I hit, I want my 20 lineups to actually have a chance to go out there and succeed. If I'm just getting marginal leverage in all of the players, I'm going to have them in 4 or 5 lineups right out of my 20, which to me, just not enough bullets to go out there and actually make it count. So just understand that I'm not going to be able to play everybody, but, a lot of guys that I would consider adding if I had more lineups. Back in this 9K range, I think Patrick Reed's actually worth a few looks on the PGA Tour, had been playing a lot better golf over the last few months. You can see 3 top 10s on this 2021-2022 schedule. You have Pat Perez, who's also been a little bit better than his peers here, but Matthew Wolff from a birdie or better percentage is definitely a guy I have my eye on. Same thing with Kevin Na. Mostly for Wolff, it's the explosive off the tee play, which sets up a lot of those birdie looks, but for Kevin Na, it's the explosive putter. So if you're looking for somebody that can get hot with the flat stick, make 6 to 7 birdies because he's making a bunch of those 20 to 30 foot putts, Kevin Na is your guy. I would argue that Ian Poulter is kind of along that same type of skill set where, if you're just hoping for somebody to find that flat stick, he could certainly be a guy to take a look at. And in Showdown, I'm really either looking for elite iron play or an elite putter. Off the tee play is great. Matthew Wolff gets a lot of birdies because he has a lot of wedges into greens, but that's also because he's a good wedge player, right? Just because you have it out there 330 yards doesn't mean you're going to take advantage of that. And for Matthew Wolff, he's got to have that iron play to really bring that birdie edge to the table, and he's at least done that of late, right? But guys like a Kevin Na, a guy like an Ian Poulter, for example, Patrick Reed, all you have to do is find that hot putter, right? They can make those 20 to 30 footers all day. So in Showdown, in Bryson, also an elite level putter. Those are the type of guys that I try and target for a single round sample size. Now, if you were looking for a 4-round sample size or, for 3 rounds when we have the LIV Golf stuff here in the future, then ball striking becomes a lot more important because it's a lot harder to be consistently good with the ball striking if you aren't already a solid ball striker. And over 4 rounds, ball striking is always going to be paramount over putting, right? That's where you get your floor, by hitting a lot of fairways, hitting a lot of greens, keeping yourself out of trouble. That's how you keep double and triple bogeys off the card, right? Whereas in Showdown, you don't really care about that, right? We can have a guy make 4 or 5 bogeys in the round. As long as he's making 6 or 7 birdies, we're going to be okay with his score there. So just a little bit of a different mindset when it comes to targeting players here. I want people that are going to be cashing in on those opportunities. If they can set up extra opportunities, then even better, right? So obviously, it's not a bad thing if you have a solid ball striker, but putting is definitely the main thing I'm harping on here. So I like Matt Jones as well. Matt Jones, a little bit of a streaky player. Long-term sample size, maybe not the best putter, but we're starting to get into that 8K range, top of the 7K range, where things get dicey quickly. Carlos Ortiz, one of the higher birdie percentage players that we had on the PGA Tour this year. The unfortunate part for him is that he missed a ton of cuts because of his issues with the iron play. Not the best around the green player either, so was making a lot of bogeys, but in a Showdown format, we don't have to worry about that as much. If you're looking for an elite putter, Justin Harding is definitely somebody you want to run to. So at $7,700, not a surprise that I'll have plenty of him in my pull. Hudson Swafford, another streaky player, so kind of similar to an Ortiz. Not always the most consistent putter, but when he gets it working, can get hot in a hurry. So I'll definitely have some Swafford. Peter Uihlein is actually a ball striker I like getting to. Not the most consistent putter, doesn't really spike it all that often, but can get nuclear hot with the iron play. So one of the few guys that I'm actually taking a shot on that's not historically the best putter. And now that you get past $7,000, it gets really, really dicey. So I'm not going to be spending down here all that often just because, like I said, I'm okay with the guys over 10 grand, but I'm not overly infatuated with them, right? Like, I'm not trying to fit Dustin Johnson and Taylor Gooch into every single lineup. If I'm going to take a Taylor Gooch and then maybe go to the next man in as a Patrick Reed, I think that makes a lot of sense for lineups, but, I'm not going to be forced to spend down into the 6K range for 2 to 3 guys in a lineup. It'll be one guy at the very most. I'm actually going to go to the bottom of the board to start with this because Chase Koepka and James Pio are among my favorite options on the slate. James Pio showed us a little something at the US Open. He was in contention after the first round, shot a 69, just unfortunately completely fell out of it in day 2. Before that, looked pretty decent at the LIV Golf Invitational, but really that round where he was in that feature group coverage showed me a lot. And I know, right, fell apart during the second round, but he's a young kid. He's 19 years old. This was the Haskins Award winner, somebody who has actually won the U.S. Amateur, I believe, James Pio, or at least came in second place. It was one of those two positions, just a high pedigree player that the LIV Golf snatched up because they know the type of potential that he has. And during that first round of the U.S. Open, where he shot that 69 among John Rahm, I believe it was another guy in the top 5 of the official World Golf rankings that he was playing with, might have been Cam Smith, just, really showed a lot of steel out there. So $6,000, I think you can do worse than that. Chase Koepka also is played on the PGA Tour a few times. Didn't look all that bad at the first LIV Golf event, so maybe you take a look there. A little bit further up the board, Turk Pettit. He's played a few times on the PGA Tour. In fact, he had his tour card before ending up getting suspended indefinitely for joining the LIV Tour. So somebody that we've at least seen quite often. Sean Norris, another player who's played well internationally. In fact, a winner internationally. So has that type of pedigree. Wade Ormsey, the Australian, maybe worth a look there. He's the captain of one of the teams. So maybe that shows you what the tour thinks of Wade Ormsey. They have him as an elite level player. Scott Vincent, he's a great player. He played extremely well in the first LIV Golf event. In fact, I believe he finished in the top. Well, he was in contention over the first 2 rounds and then shot 76 on Sunday. So, he showed us something there for the first round. I believe he was in the top 5 at that point. Kind of fell off over the weekend, but a great ball striker. He was hitting a lot of solid iron shots during that first event, and I think you could do worse than that at $6,900. All right, that's all I've got for the LIV Golf preview. I know it wasn't rocket science, didn't have my usual spreadsheet up, but it was last second. Just wanted to get something out there for people that are doing round 1 Showdown. But over the weekend, I will be doing content for rounds 2 and 3. So for Friday and Saturday's round, it may be in live stream format, it may be in video format, we'll have to see, but probably going to be similar, right? I just don't have my spreadsheet set up, all my database content and pooling set up for LIV Golf quite yet, but as it becomes more of an established tour, we get data feeds that are a little bit more reliable from the tour, be able to incorporate that analysis in just like I do for the PGA Tour and up the video quality as well. But hopefully that was informative and I was able to bring you guys some value here for the first round. And overall, just interested to see how the product is improving from the first event here to the first event over in the United States, and interested to see if the improved player pool, the improved field, has an impact on the product itself and how it's received. Perhaps it'll look less like an exhibition, more like an actual tour this time, or perhaps it'll go in the opposite direction, right? No idea, right? I'm going to be just as interested a spectator as pretty much everyone else out there. So